Well, hey there, everyone. We're here with another player spotlight, and this time we get to talk to the hunter from Obey. We got Wowy over here, and I'm actually really excited for this because, Wowy, I've seen your name on screen for years and years and years, but it's you're another one of the players I just feel like I don't know as much about, and the behind the scenes and all that stuff. And so we're going to roll back to the very beginning, and we'll cover how you got into Smite and, of course, all the success that you've had since then. But realistically, I want to know, at the beginning, like, how did you get into gaming? What kind of things were you in as a kid? Like, were you a sports kid? Did you always play games? What was it that you did a lot for your free time when you were a kid?
I was a pretty, competitive and active kid, so I always played hockey. I was always outside, and to kind of supplement that, when I was inside, I always gamed. Since I can remember, honestly, my parents would go out of their way to rent consoles, like a Sega Genesis or just random stuff. And they give me one game, I'd play the game, try to beat it before it went back to the rent, and then all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so gaming has been huge part of my life since I can remember. It's all I've done. So yeah, that and hockey.
You said you were into hockey. Where did you grow up? Are you near Canada? Are you from Canada? I don't actually know.
Oh yeah, I'm from Canada, Ontario, Ottawa.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, hockey's everything there.
So, all right, I asked this because I found out, I think it was Neil was from Edmonton, and I had to ask if he was a fan of the Oilers. So I guess I have to know, are you a fan of the Senators? Do you try to go to their games often, or is that something that was maybe in the past?
In the past, for sure. I literally can't remember the last time I even watched a hockey game. It must have been when the Senators were going for the Stanley Cup, years and years and years ago. So, but yeah, I guess they're my favorite team. Them and the Maple Leafs. For sure.
Well, hey, it's not bad teams to be rooting for, right? At least somewhat successful that come through. And it's really interesting because I think there's always that dynamic. It's really easy to, I guess, glance over and kind of forget. We say North America, I think just out of, I don't know, maybe it's hubris, something people tend to just assume the U.S. So I want to know, what was it like, I guess, with your family when you were growing up? Do you have siblings? Was it just you as an only child? How was the family life like?
Just an only child, and yeah, it's kind of it.
Well, hey, and I think that is interesting because, a lot of the times, like you said, you're kind of outwardly competitive. You would play games, but you would also go out and do hockey and things like that. You would compete with other people, and that tends to be the case even when they have siblings. At least every single pro player, it feels like no matter what, from the get-go, you guys had that competitive nature in there. So you're playing these games, and obviously you have hockey on the side and things like that. But what was the first game that you played, and you kind of realized, wait, I could get better at this, and I could make this a competitive thing?
Oh God, I never really thought about it that way. So again, I've always played games and stuff. But when I first started really playing, kind of competitive, was when Halo 3 came out, and COD 4 as well. I'd watch all the MLG tournaments. And even actually even further back than that, I played RuneScape a lot, and there's RuneScape competitive teams and stuff like that. So I watched their videos. But the main thing, when I got super into it, was playing Halo 3, game battles, watching all the MLG tournaments with my friends from school. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I came from consoles and stuff like that, so yep.
I mean, it's a good way to get into it, right? I think that's, again, where a lot of the grassroots, especially around Halo, that's kind of where a lot of esports things, I think, started to really get popular and gain a lot of traction. I mean, you're watching, so you go back, you're watching Halo 3, there's some MLG tournaments for that in COD. Did you ever think, I'm going to be a pro gamer at that point? Was there ever that, kind of thought where you're wait, these guys are making money, I'm going to do that one day?
Kind of. It's kind of almost what I've always wanted to play games for a living, and it's kind of what I wanted to do ever since I saw those tournaments and stuff. I was probably 12 or 13. I started seeing those, oh, I want to do that. I want to make money playing Halo. That sounds awesome. So yeah, probably around 12 or 13. I really took the dive near it's probably 18, 19, right? When I started playing Smite ranked and stuff like that, I was I kind of decided sure, I'm going to try to do this.
Yeah, and what was it? like for Smite, what really made it like different? I guess like when you saw Smite and like you said, you were already kind of interested in it. You already wanted that kind of feeling from a game. What kind of stood out to you with Smite? Like you just really enjoyed playing it and you could see yourself grinding it a ton.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of like my main game, I guess.
Yeah.
And I watched like old Dig and stuff like that, and I kind of envied them. So yeah, I just decided to go for it.
I
Yeah.
think that was an easy team to be a big fan of, like Lasses, Zapman, like all at the time. I think it's even interesting, like again, when you have players, especially like you said, that have watched some of the older Smite because we've been around so long now that you can
Mhm.
watch those players and like you can be a fan of it, and then now you're regularly playing against Zapman. I'm sure that's got to be a kind of an interesting thing. Like now it's probably nothing to you. It's just another game. Yeah, okay, Obey versus the Knights. But I feel like at first, did that ever kind of like come to realization? Like you're like, oh man, like that's Zap. Like I'm gonna be playing against him.
Yeah, the first one that really hit me was I actually subbed in for his team for a few times. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm actually like playing with like Divios and a whole bunch of stuff like that. Like that really brought me back. Fuse for games, like I was definitely like nervous and stuff as well, but not anymore, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
definitely a
the
big deal at the time.
best example of like for anyone out there who's like, man, I want to get to be a pro, like just keep grinding, right? I like Wowy did it. If you can keep it going, you can get good enough, then maybe you're also going to be able to go forward and do again the jump that you got to make. Because a lot of people, especially nowadays, like making money playing a game isn't necessarily that outrageous anymore to mention to people, and it's a conversation that you can have. And even though for a lot of people it might be like tournament to tournament life, you are now making a living off of Smite. Like it is a regular paycheck, things coming in. And I want to know though, when that first conversation comes up, specifically for the LAN League as well, what was it like? I guess like were your parents on board with it? Did they were just think, oh cool, as long as you're making money, or was there like an in-depth conversation saying, I'm gonna go move to Atlanta, play Smite for a living?
I'm very fortunate with my family in gaming. My mom, I felt like was a little hesitant at the start because like I like left college. I was like, I want to try this.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a little hesitant and stuff. But my dad has been like super supportive. Same with my mother also. So like my parents like watch. Like wasn't really much of a conversation. I said I want to do this, and they're like cool. Like they watch every game, watch every set. My grandma, my grandpa, they watch every set as well. Yeah, my whole entire family is like pretty supportive and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
It's always nice, like to get out there and like you start the game up, and like it probably doesn't come up much while you're actually in game. There's a lot of things for you to focus on, but just knowing like you have that support out there behind you. A lot of Obey fans that come out to watch, and knowing your family is in that group probably feels really good. And that kind of, I think, comes forward with how things are going, I guess, now. That's a big transition. You have to move all of a sudden, and to either a gaming house or just being very, very close by to the team. Either way, you're now in this nature where you get to hang out. Like, it's not just, hey, we're sitting in a Discord call and we all were watching a funny video or a stream or something. You can physically go see each other and things like that. And so I want to know, like, for you and realistically, I guess, for Obey, how important to you is hanging out with the team outside of Smite? Like, you get your scrims done, but then you're like, cool, we're going to go sit down and watch a movie, or we're going to keep playing a game together even though it's not Smite. How much does that happen, and how important does it feel to you?
It's pretty important. I think like it's a really hard question actually. Yeah, I definitely think it's important. I think like all like just hanging out kind of leads to different like conversations about Smite in general because that's what we're kind of there and focused for. So it kind of always leads back to like maybe me learning that Bobby wants to do like something more because we're actually just hanging out and chilling, or he wants to try something or all that kind of nonsense. So I think it's pretty important to have people around you just to kind of joke around, obviously, but that always kind of leads into like something to do with Smite, like somehow getting better in some way. So I do think like being with each other and always being around each other, having like your life being Smite oriented is a very big upside. So yeah, I think it's very important.
You always got your head in the game, right? Like, and like you just said, like you can circle around, like new strategies that might come through, interesting things that I'm hoping we'll get to see as time goes on, and things like that. It's just really fun, I think, to know that you guys are hanging out and still having those conversations. But what is it that you like to do? Like, let's say, you've had scrims, maybe it was an SPL day as well, like you finish your games. What kind of stuff do you do to then just relax and try to kind of either turn off or really just kind of chill out?
I play more games. I never stop. Yeah, I always have to be doing something. So if I'm just sitting around like watching TV or something, I don't really like it too much. So yeah, I either play more Smite, I play Assault, or I grind WoW, or like just random stuff like that, like any kind of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just keep going and you keep on, I guess, keep your mind interested, right? And you keep playing games. Even if it's not Smite, like you said, somehow it always ends up coming full circle right back to Smite no matter what. And that's kind of the interesting thing. You, along with, 39 other players, technically? I mean, maybe you add in, because coaches and things like that, the number goes up a little higher. But you're one of the top players in the world, top hunters in the world when it comes down to playing Smite. And does that ever, like, I guess, kind of get to you? Like, when you're sitting around and, all your conversations come back to Smite, your life is kind of built around it. Does it ever, like, do you sit back and go, like, man, I wonder, like, am I going to be able to keep this up? Obviously, with the way communities can be, sometimes there's a ton of fan support. Sometimes there's a ton of not support that comes through. Does that ever end up kind of coming up behind the scenes?
I say that used to bother me a lot on, like, Noble and stuff like that, because we got a lot of hate on Noble. I don't think I think we played pretty well for having like roster swaps and whatever. Yeah, that stuff doesn't bother me too much anymore. Obviously, like, certain things get to me, but
yeah,
it's not like nearly like what it used to be. So yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I mean, because at this point, like, you've been in the pro league for a little while, like, you're good. Right? It has to be there, and that's, I think, the fun part of it. But you made it into the pro league. You've been, again, playing at this level for a long time, and a lot of this stuff has probably calmed down for what it was at the very beginning. But when was it that you realized that you could make that jump from just maybe like a ranked monster, this guy who's good at it and could play maybe in some community tournaments, but to being, a professional, to be good at, or at least this good at Smite?
Okay, so it's a weird question, I guess. I played like a lot of casuals and stuff, so I had like really high casual elo. So whenever I played like rank back in the day, the games were just worse. Like, it was bad. So I played so I decided, like, screw it, I'm just gonna like try to play competitive. So I just kind of grinded ranked, and then I found a team like right away, and then I kind of just kept swapping teams and like playing more and stuff. So I guess I decided to play competitive when I decided to play ranked. I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it, I guess. Yeah.
Hey, it worked out pretty well, right? You've been able to make it pretty far in that regard. Were you always a hunter player? Like, when you started out and started going into ranked, were you always playing over there in the hunter role?
Yeah. Every other role sucks. Yeah, hunter's the only role. I played it since beta. I like seeing big red numbers. And yeah, that's it. I've always played hunter. That's literally it.
Well, my follow-up question to that normally is, what other role would you like to play? But I have a strong feeling your answer is none of them. You just hunter through and through that comes in. Do you have a favorite god, like, that you either, whether it's a hunter or not, but somebody you just really like playing over there?
Uller for sure. I play a lot of Uller. Probably him, and then Morgan, I think. I think Morgan's like a really, really interesting kit. But yeah, those two are by far my favorite.
Morgan's the one that's the most fun, right? Because you get to play anybody at certain points of the game. Although, at least nowadays, it seems like you're transitioning into a warrior, and you're maybe kind of just that third tank that your team comes through. But it's always fun. And you, again, have played so many games, and competitively, you've been able to come out to the top. Do you have one in your memory like that was just such a phenomenal game or a phenomenal experience that kind of stands out, like you remember everything about it?
Either I guess like the normal answer would be like probably like the Cupid play I had in season 4 against were they EU at the time? Had like PBM, Scream.
Yeah.
Was it Chaos? I can't remember exactly, but probably that play where I defended the Titan and stuff. That was pretty big, I guess. Yeah, I remember that a
It
lot.
stands with you through all this one. And again, a big moment I think that comes through in Smite. And you have been, you know, again, jumping from team to team. You've played with a lot of different players. And this is always a risky question to ask because there's been a lot of people that you've probably enjoyed being on a team with. But do you have anyone that was like your favorite to be paired with? Like I know you were, you know, at least in lane now with Bobby. Is there someone that has just like been just a stellar teammate that you really wish either could be back on your team or back in the experience, or at least has a good spot in your memories?
Yeah, I guess I split that between. And okay, right now is Ducky. Ducky's my boy. I love the man. In the past, probably Wubbin, my first support in the SPL.
Oh yeah.
Me and him got like along really well. Like learned how to play with each other, play in the pro league with each other. It's probably the closest I've been with a teammate. And yeah, I would like love to play with that guy again, for sure.
Always be fun. And so I guess if Wubbin happens to see this at any point, just hit up Wowy and go play some casuals, have some fun out there. This is the one that I think is always the hardest question I ask because there's so many. I think there are a lot of answers to it, and yet every single one of them is hard to find. But you've been a pro player for a little while right now. What is something that you think most people in Smite just don't know about being a professional player and, you know, being in your shoes?
I guess the amount of time you sit on the computer, man. Yeah, it's a lot. Like if you think you play a game a lot, like you really don't. Like I'm probably sitting here for like 12, 14 hours, I guess. So that's a pretty big thing people don't really know. That and how much communication you actually have with your team is probably another one. It's kind of constant. And I think to be like good, you have to constantly talk about things. You need to have like having interpersonal like relationships and like keeping a team's like confidence up and stuff like that is a very big challenge. I feel like, especially if like you're losing and stuff like that. So like there's a lot of sitting, and a lot of like just making sure everyone's okay and like on the same page and stuff like that. It takes a lot.
Trying to keep the morale up and everybody level-headed in a lot of those circumstances. Definitely, yeah, very difficult, I think, in a ton of circumstances. I can't imagine it under a competitive nature as well, where there's maybe an added pressure onto that. So, big ups, I think, just being able to keep that going forward. But I've got one big question for you, and that's just looking at the rest of the Smite season or whether, you know, maybe life goals that you have. What are some things that are on your list to just get done in the near future? I mean, with Worlds coming up, I assume that's going to be one of them.
Yeah, obviously, I've never actually been to Worlds, so that's a massive thing for me. Just to even like be there would be big. And I guess like for future goals, just like be on a very successful team. That's pretty much it.
Make that jump, climb up the standings, and then become #1, like we know you can be. Well, hey, Wowy, I appreciate you coming through and chatting with me. But there's one more thing, I guess, really to break down. That's where people can find you. If people want to follow you, whether, you know, it's streams, Twitter, things like that, just to keep track of where to, I guess, what all things Wowy will be, where can people find you?
I stream a ton. You can find me on twitch.tv/Wowy. My Twitter is Wowy_Smite, and I think my YouTube is just Wowy or something. Yeah, you can find me there.
Oh, make sure to go subscribe, follow, and I guess follow for both of those. You can also subscribe on Twitch. Just make sure that Wowy has all those numbers coming forward. But hey, man, thanks again for all of the time. And for everyone who's been watching, you can always subscribe for more videos like this, more player spotlights, and finding out about the pros. You can leave a like if you enjoyed this. And, of course, you can hit us up in the comments or on Twitter at SMITEPro for who you would like to see in the next player spotlight. But once again, Wowy, thanks for your time, and we'll see you all in the next video.
Awesome. Thank you.